Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Seneca Lake Mysteries, the podcast exploring the unusual, strange, and unexplained on New York's largest Finger Lake. Thanks as always for listening, and if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the podcast, like, comment, share. Make sure to visit SenecaLakeMysteries.com and subscribe there on the website so you don't miss any updates. So this time around, Rick from Alpine is back on the podcast as we discuss our recent visit to Connecticut Hill to look for a mysterious stone pile that Rick first saw and photographed back in 2022. And just like our last trip to the Alpine Portal, which we talked about in episode 10, this time we also found a lot more than we anticipated. But first, I have a story from a listener who heard the episode 13 story of the multi-witness UFO sighting in Ovid back in 1980. After hearing the story, the listener was reminded of a sighting his mother had in the same time frame. So here's that story as it was told to me. So the listener's family lived on a farm in the Ovid, Lodi area. And one night in 1980, when the listener was around 8 to 10 years old, his mother woke up at around 2 a.m. one morning and felt a strange compulsion to look out of the bedroom window. And when she got to the window, she saw an extremely bright, glowing object hovering in the air, not too far from the ground, roughly 100 yards from the house. She then kneeled in front of the window to kind of settle in to watch this strange object, which she estimated to be approximately the size of a volleyball, although it was giving off an extraordinary amount of light. And then suddenly, the object steadily began moving directly towards the woman into the backyard of the house. As she said, the entire backyard was brightly lit by this object's blinding intensity. Then the object stopped within 10, 20 feet of the house below the bedroom window where the woman was watching. And then the object floated straight up and stopped directly in front of her. Now, she later said that at no time was she alarmed or afraid. Instead, she was just kind of amazed and mesmerized by the object. So it floated there directly outside the window for maybe 30 seconds or a minute, almost as if it was greeting the woman, or at least like letting her know that it knew she was watching, like they were both observing each other. And again, the entire backyard is lit up by the light coming from this orb. Then the object moved away from the window, headed further away to the west, picking up speed before it dipped down below the horizon and towards Seneca Lake. And then the woman just went back to bed, and the next day she spoke to her family about the experience. Nobody else in the family had woken up or seen the orb or knew anything about it. And they kind of, in the moment, chalked it up as a one-time weird event that the mother had experienced, until they saw the story in the Finger Lakes Times, the story that I discussed in that previous episode. Now, the listener wasn't able to give the exact number of days that had gone by between his mother's sighting and the newspaper report, but he was very confident that it was no more than several days, because when the family saw the article, they got very excited to learn that the sighting on their farm and what their mother saw very likely wasn't the only sighting in the area around that time. And although the encounter was incredibly strange, the mother didn't report it to the newspaper or anyone, and it just kind of became part of the family's history, just that, one weird night where mom saw something unexplainable in the backyard. And the listener decided to contact me because he said that while he hadn't completely forgotten the event, it sort of, faded into the mists of time, like in the back of his mind, and he didn't think about it too often, but after hearing episode 13, he said that memory came back and decided to reach out and tell me the story so I could share it with all of you. So I want to thank the listener very much for getting a hold of me and sharing this family story from decades ago, because at least for me, it adds more credibility and weight to the sighting that was reported in the paper 40 plus years ago. And it adds one more compelling anomalous story to the long and wide-ranging history of the unusual, strange, and unexplained around Seneca Lake. So, and before we get to the interview with Rick, I also want to share a quick one from an article in the Elmira Star-Gazette that was published on August 21st, 1895. So we're going back to the olden days. Now, although the article doesn't provide any names or exact locations, it still paints a pretty cool picture of a mysterious buried treasure near Seneca Lake that, if it exists, may never have been found. So what happened is, in the summer of 1895, two visitors arrived in Geneva, New York, at the northern end of Seneca Lake. These were two men who were from Elmira, New York, which is about 20 miles south of Watkins Glen at the southern tip of Seneca Lake. And these men were hunting for hidden riches. They said that their story was that another man, who was also unnamed, had been just a few days from his death and confessed that he had helped rob a bank in Geneva 47 years earlier. Now, this man, in his deathbed confession, said that he and his fellow bank robbers netted about $25,000, which they stashed in an iron box that was then secured inside an oak box and buried in a ravine on the eastern shore of Seneca Lake. So this duo, these two men from Elmira, spent a week in Geneva looking into the subject, asking questions, and then the article says they grabbed a divining rod and headed out to visit a lakeside farm in Lodi that they believed was the location of this buried treasure. Now, coincidentally, the farm had also been the location of a previous treasure hunt several years earlier, when a clairvoyant claimed that a great fortune was hidden somewhere on the farm, and a group of searchers came there, dug around, and came up empty. And ultimately, it's unknown whether the two men from Elmira ever found Seneca Lake's buried treasure. The article doesn't say so. Now, if they found it, they might not have told anyone, because really it was stolen money, and even back then, it's unlikely that they would have been allowed to keep all of it. And if they didn't find it, that could mean, if the treasure actually existed, it's still buried somewhere in a ravine near Seneca Lake. So I'm not encouraging anyone to trespass on private property in search of an old $25,000 treasure chest that might not even exist. But without any other details, this still remains a really cool story and a true mystery. So, again, thanks for listening. Let's get to my conversation with Rick. And for those who may not know, Connecticut Hill, which is also known as the Alpine Portal, is located several miles south of Seneca Lake at the southern tip of the Seneca Lake watershed. And Connecticut Hill is widely known for mysterious phenomena like UFOs, hauntings, cryptid sightings, orbs, anomalous weather, and even some Bigfoot reports, and more. So a few months back, Rick and I took a trip up onto the hill to try and locate a large stone pile in the middle of the woods that Rick had seen and photographed in 2022. We didn't find that stone pile, but we did find something even more interesting, and you can listen to that older episode to learn about that story. And also, for those who aren't familiar, native stone piles have been found around the United States and the world, including the Northeast U.S. They can range from small piles to large, elaborate groupings that may include chambers or internal features. Some were used to mark trails and burial sites, while others held ceremonial importance to the people who constructed them. And although some stone piles and structures may be the remains of colonial construction, property markers, fences, stone piles from farming, the stone piles on Connecticut Hill are in remote locations on very rugged terrain in steep ravines, which to me indicates that they were built long before the arrival of Europeans in the late 1800s. So, thanks again for listening, and let's get to the chat with Rick from Alpine. Okay, I'm here with Rick from Alpine, and we're going to run down our last visit to Connecticut Hill. Rick, how's it going?
Hey Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. A
Cool.
little distracted earlier today, but I'm doing well now.
That's good. Yeah, we
Yeah.
we got a little took a little tweaking for our audio. I started hearing that echo again like we did last time, but we're good to go now. Um so uh so yeah, let's get into it. Last weekend on I guess it was Sunday the 7th, we met up and took another trip up to Connecticut Hill. The first thing I'll mention is that we didn't go to find the quartz ledge that is up there on the hill somewhere, because I guess you have a neighbor who is gonna show you where it
Yeah.
is, or
Yeah, he's really the one who found it on the side hill, so he wasn't available to take us up there. But I mean, we saw quite a bit of quartz on our walk going up. Anyway, up to where we were going to find the rock mounds.
yeah, yeah, for sure. There was at least one like pretty large piece, like maybe a foot wide, a couple of feet long, that was just kind of embedded right in the ground. And really, like when you wander around up there, it's not uncommon just to see chunks of quartz like sitting here and sitting there. Um, so there's a lot, yeah, definitely a lot up there. But
Yeah,
we
it's
did,
kind of amazing how much quartz is actually around in the area up there. You would think it would be like just rock and not so much quartz as there is.
right, right, yeah, yeah, it's a definitely a cool, weird place, and I wonder if that quartz has anything to do with. I mean, I'm sure the quartz has something to do with all the strange things that happen to people up there. And our day was, I mean, not overtly strange, but there were definitely some odd things that were happening throughout the day. So we got there and we went up and we parked, and the first place we were looking for is the stone pile that you had photographed. Was it like a couple of years ago?
Yeah, 2022 was actually when that first picture was taken, November. So that was during deer rifle season.
Right. So, so that was our first target. So we went up on the hill. We walked up a logging road into the woods. There's no like marked trails or anything there. And yeah, it was a beautiful day, mid 70s, um, sunny, light breeze, not anywhere close to as oppressive as it was last time we went up there when it was like 100 degrees. But um, so we got there, we headed on the logging road, and um, I think our at least my phone reception was a little bit, it wasn't perfect, but it was a little bit better in that area than it was in the other area we were in last time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, where that cell tower is up there, it's blocked by the one side of the mountain where we were the first time.
Okay, yep.
So that kind of like blocks it. It kind of goes over your head instead of down to your phone to get reception. But it
Yep.
was definitely better there than it was in the first trip for sure.
Yeah, and which made it much easier to try to triangulate where this mound was and find it from the metadata that was on the photo that you took back in 2022. Um, so we headed in. Now, one thing happened. I want to mention it now, and then we'll come back to it later. But as we were walking in on the logging road, or an old logging road, you notice something off of the path, maybe 50, 60 feet off to our left in the trees. And it was just some kind of white object that was just sitting. It looked completely out of place.
Yeah.
Um, so
So
go ahead.
that that I thought was one of those mylar balloons, and there's a whole old like mythology about deer hunting where if you find these mylar balloons that float around in the air, they will actually catch the currents that bucks use to smell predators or other deer or wolves, stuff like that, or coyotes, whatever's up in the area. But it turned out to be some kind of a like white jug. So it wasn't
Yeah,
what I thought it was, but that completely turned us looking left instead of paying attention to the right side
right,
of the logging road.
right. And yeah, so you went over and you took a closer look at it, and you were like, "Yeah, it's just some kind of plastic jug or something." So so we got distracted by that, and then we got back on the path and started walking. Um, and then we were uh, trying to trying to find that stone pile. At first, we got a little bit. I mean, we were getting a little bit closer to it, and then we would seem to go away a little bit. It wasn't quite as drastic as last time at all. We did. It didn't take us that long to find it, but at one point we were. Um, I think it was on one side of. We were near the. We were kind of near the bottom of a ravine, right? Where there was like that.
Yeah.
Where there's
Yeah,
like
we
that.
were we were kind of at like where the ravine would come down and meet with a logging road. So we like kind of got brought to the left side of that ravine and started walking up where the I guess you would call it GPS on the picture itself was bringing us, but the signal kept going in and out and we would lose it. So I'd have to get out of the picture and then go back in to get it to restart that tracking of where the spot was.
Yep.
So it took a while, but I wasn't giving up. And,
Right.
you know, I finally had said to you we had gotten so far up on that left side of the ravine. I had told you if you don't want to walk down the one side of the ravine, wait for me. I'll go down and check out and see if it brings me to where it was. So that's when I walked up on what I thought was the rock pile. But
Right.
to my surprise, it was actually another rock pile,
Yep.
which
Exactly.
kind of like really confused me. But I had shouted to you that I found it, and then you had come over to where I was.
Yep. Yeah, you were out of my view, and then you started yelling. You were like, "It's over here! I found it! Follow my voice!" So I got over to you. There was a very small, like remnants of a little, very narrow stream, like a couple of feet wide, maybe, at the bottom of the ravine, and then not far from that was where that stone pile was. And I think at first we kind of thought that that was the one in your picture.
Yeah.
I th- I think,
And
yeah,
we I kind of brought the picture back up to try to look at it and like put the trees into perspective of what the picture was showing us, and they didn't match.
right.
So I had said to you, I said, I don't think this is the one. I said, I think this is another one.
Yep. But yep, and it turned out it was another one. But this pile that we found was pretty sizable. I think you measured it out. It was about like, was it 18 by 16 feet or somewhere
Yeah.
around there?
So that's what was visible. Yeah, 18 by 16. We
Yep.
measured the farthest rocks out from the sides of it across, like in a northwest and a east-west kind of thing there, to kind of like
Yep.
triangulate it, like, and get a good measurement on how wide it was.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, it was a lot of, you know, um mostly larger rocks. But they varied in size, but they're mostly rocks that, you'd take it would take two hands to lift them up. It was probably about 3 to 4 feet high. So it was, I mean, it's a substantial pile of rocks when you do actually come upon it. It looks completely out of place. It's not really level ground. On one side, the is on the one side the ravine is going up the hill, and then you're
Yeah,
at the
so that
bottom of
would
the
be
ravine
the
on the other
right
side.
that would be the right side of the ravine, goes up from that
Yep.
south side of the rock pile.
Yep.
So,
Um,
and then it was kind of strange because you were taking video and photos of it and talking to me, and I'm kind of looking at you, but I noticed like past you something up the ravine a little further away from us, maybe, I don't know, 50 yards away.
yep. Yeah.
And I just kind of smiled and I said, "There's another pile." And you're like,
Yeah.
"Huh?" And I'm like, "There's another pile behind you." And I said, "Turn around." And you turned around. You really couldn't see it at first. And I had to kind of like show you. I'm like, "Right there." I said, "I'll be right back. I'm going to walk over there." And sure enough, I had walked over there, and I had seen where the picture started lining up with the trees in the
Right.
background. So it was like, okay, this is the real pile.
Right. Yep. So yeah, so I finished taking pictures of the first pile we found. The one thing that was odd about that first pile was that right at the top of it, it looked like someone had fairly recently moved a rock out of uh, out of position. Um, so I guess, I mean, I would guess that people are down there. I don't know why someone would go and remove the rock from that pile, but this was, I mean, it's not, it's a fairly remote area, but I guess it's not so remote and it's not so difficult to get to where, yeah, people might come upon it and, um, decide to move the rocks around for whatever reason. But yeah, you went and then, walked up and you found the other rock pile, and I followed you over there, and that was the one from the photo. So once again, we found a pretty significant like rock pile, and then but that wasn't even what we were looking for. And then we found the second one, which was the original one that you were looking for in the first place. And
And I had actually brought up the pictures from our last visit and kind of put them on the map as a pin, a picture pin, I guess you
yep,
would say it's called. And when I looked at them, They are directly north and south from each other, both those piles and that other pile that we found the last trip.
Right. Yeah. They all seem to be lined up in some kind of arrangement that was intentional. At least that's what it looks like. And so yeah, so the second pile we found, which was the original one we were looking for, was a little bit bigger than the other one. Probably closer to 20 feet by 20 feet and a little bit taller, between 4 and 5 feet tall. Um, and these are, like I said, these are just very prominent piles of rocks that you come upon, and they're just they don't make sense being right there. Um, if it was a farmer that was moving it, or if it was a rock pile from farming, or land moving, or even from logging, if for some reason logging is done and they decide to pile the rocks somewhere, it just didn't seem like a place that it just didn't seem like there was any reason for those piles of rocks to be there.
Yeah, and it's kind of strange that the whole area there has no other rocks.
Right. Yep. Just like the boulders in the pile that we found the other time. But what was interesting to note is that both of the piles, the first pile we found was right next to that little stream right at the bottom of the ravine. And then the second pile, which was the original pile we were looking for, was also within a few feet of that little stream. But it seemed like the stream, and it's hard to see with everything overgrown, but it looked to me like that little stream almost ended right there next to that second rock pile.
Right. I would have to agree with that. I think it kind of like there were no remnants of a stream beyond that second original pile.
Yep.
So it was kind
Yeah.
of just dry earth.
Yeah, and that's where and if I'm speculating, I'm thinking maybe at one time there was a active spring there. You do find that ancient earthworks and stone piles and stuff are found near springs coming from the ground, so it's possible that there was an actual spring that was feeding that little stream at one time, and uh, and that's what we were seeing. And maybe both of these piles were put the one pile was put right at the source of the spring, and then the other one was placed whatever 30, 50 yards away, something like that.
Right. And you could tell that both of those piles were actually hand stacked. There was no question about that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It didn't look it I mean, it looked old. It looked like, some of it had kind of, maybe it had settled, maybe it had kind of collapsed, um but it looked stacked. It looked like it was put there intentionally. And again, there's no other stones around the area. I don't want to say 100% no stones. Like you run into one here, and then,
Right.
100 feet away, you might see one laying on the ground here. So it's not completely devoid of rocks or stones, but they're not really prominent. And then you just get to this one spot where all of the stones are. Um,
Right. And it's kind of crazy that when you find a stone up there by itself, it's usually rather large and it always seems to turn out to be some kind of quartz like mixed
yep.
matrix stone, which is funny.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yep. So yeah, we were, right away, in a very short amount of time, we show up, and already we're getting surprised by Connecticut Hill once again, um, looking for the
it,
one pile.
I, I kind of felt really deflated because the way I felt was we were taking an awful long time to find that original pile. And when it just wasn't coming right up to it, I felt like we weren't going to find it again.
Yeah. Yeah, we did get to a point where I think I did say, maybe I should say out loud, well, we might as well call it a day because when I did that last time, we ended up finding something shortly after that.
Right.
But yeah, we did look around for a little while. It didn't take us quite as anywhere near as long. Like last time, I think it took us at least an hour or more to finally find something in the woods. Probably
It,
longer,
it
but
was
this,
actually surprising to me how far away those other mounds were from where we were the last time around.
yeah, yeah, it's quite a ways away because when we left, we had to. I mean, I suppose we didn't have to, but we ended up driving over to get closer to the other pile. Um,
Mhm.
so so yeah, so we found these two piles. I took some pictures and some videos. I'll be putting those up on the website, and I'll put them in the description for the podcast. And we got a good look. We got our fill there, and decided to trek back out, back through the up the logging road that we came in on, so we could go and look for the other stone pile and or stone complex, whatever you want to call it, that we seen last time. But on our way out, um, as we're walking, you noticed something to the left of us, which was right.
Yeah.
It was
I was actually talking to you as we were leaving and looking over to the
uh,
left of you. So, to my surprise, there it was about halfway up the logging road from where we parked the car, yet another stone mound in the background of you. And I
yep,
said, "You're not going to believe this, but turn around." And you said, "My God, another one."
yep. And yeah, and this one was right across from that white plastic jug that we had been looking at earlier. So when we came in, we were so distracted looking at this white thing out in the middle of the woods, we didn't even notice that there was a stone pile 30 feet behind us, like right next to us. We were walking by it. It wasn't that far off of the logging road, like maybe 30 feet
Yeah.
or so. Like
It
you could see
just
it.
it just goes to show you how turned around you can get up there, and it's kind of like some credence to the stories of people saying they felt kind of like out of place or whatever they say they happens to them, but it was right there the whole
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. And part of me, I mean, I think I said something at the time. I kind of felt like the place was playing a trick on us. Like when we came in, they were like, it was like, okay, we're not going to let them see this pile at first. We're going to make them walk right past it, and then they'll see it on
For
their way
sure.
out. Um,
For sure.
but this, but this pile was a little bit different because it had a lot more, it seemed like flat stones that were part of that were part of the structure, and the flat stones were stacked along the edges. It looked like it was I mean, at least from what we could see, maybe the other ones had the same kind of stacking of the stones underneath and we couldn't see it as well, but this one along the edges you could see very very you know consciously placed stacks of these flatter stones, maybe a couple feet wide, 3 4 inches thick or varying in thickness, that were just kind of stacked up around the outer edges of the stone pile.
So that pile was actually like southwest of where the other piles were.
Yep. And I don't think it was as big. I think it was probably a little
The
bit
o-
smaller.
the only yeah, it was about the size of the other one. I think it was only like 18 by 19 or something
Right.
similar to the other measurements.
Yep.
And I've seen a lot of old house foundations, and the way these stones were stacked, you wouldn't put a house on it. First of all, it was round, it
Right.
wasn't square.
Yeah.
So, and then you had the mount, it was a mound, it wasn't like a flat foundation like most of those you would find in an old house foundation, like the old schoolhouse I showed you.
Right.
So,
Yep. But I could also see where if people had walked past it and they kind of glanced toward it and you see the corner of it and you see some of the stones are stacked up, it almost if you're just glancing at it, it would kind of look like an old foundation or an old, stone fence or something like that because they were stacked. But then when you
I,
get close to it, it's no, it didn't look like a foundation at all.
no. And what I found funny is I've been through that logging road. I can't tell you how many times and just never seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like it's hidden in plain sight. It's almost like I said, the spirit of the mountain, spirit of the mountain or the spirit of the hills or whatever, just kind of uh kind of make your mind play tricks on you or sort of distract you from noticing it. But once we noticed it, was like, how could we possibly miss this?
Yeah.
It's a
And the only thing I could think of is I really did a good job at distracting our attention to that white
yeah,
object in the woods there, the jug or whatever it was.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, I mean, if you are, if you're further away from these piles, they're not super easy to see just because they kind of camouflage. They're overgrown. There's trees around them, so they're not super
Hmm.
easy to see. But this one, compared to where the logging road was, it was uh, it was right there. It was obvious.
Yeah.
Um,
And the other thing I noticed is it wasn't as grown over as the other two had, like
right.
ground cover growing on it.
Yep. But it did have
So,
a. It had like, were there some bees or hornets or something living in it?
oh yeah, the
Wasps.
hornet.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
was.
it was a hornet for sure. It was right on the
Okay.
top of it,
Yep.
which was peculiar too.
Right. Um, So yeah, so now at this point, we went there looking for one and we found another one, then we found the one we're looking for, and then we found a third mound. And that's
It's,
the
it's
story
unreal.
could end there.
Yeah, it's unreal. It's really
Yeah,
unreal.
it's yep. And it just that place is just there's just surprises every time you go up
Yeah.
there.
And
Um
I'm sure like when we were walking up the logging road going back to the truck, we had talked about how they were logging up there and had left a lot of the logs laying around, and now the shrubbery is growing through all that, so you can't even walk through some parts of the woods. So
yeah.
there's real no telling. There could be a lot of these mounds hidden up there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially in those areas that are grown because it's not trees, it's just, vegetation, but
Overgrowth. Yeah,
it's
it's just
overgrowth,
overgrowth.
but it's tall, it's 10, 15 feet tall or whatever and um just very thick. Like I don't even know how you would move through there. So yeah, there could be all kinds of other mounds or structures or whatever in there and you wouldn't even know. Um But so yeah, it was just it was just a morning full of surprises, and so we checked out that final pile. I got pictures of that and video of that I'll put up, and then we headed over to um one of the uh one of the mark trails where there's a trailhead. I don't want to tell people exactly where it is, but there's a trailhead that we needed to get to to go back and find the original stone stoneworks that we found the first time we went up there.
Mhm. And
Um,
wouldn't you know it, the woods had yet another surprise and journey for us.
yes,
And made
yes,
that difficult to find.
yes, for sure. So we got to the trailhead. We started on the trail. I had kind of in my head like, okay, we're gonna go up this way and we come around the bend here, and um, that's where it's gonna be. And I had, and when we had the last time we were there, uh, when we had found the stone pile, then left, and we made our way back to the main trail, I had kind of noticed. I noticed there was a like a down tree there that had uh, that the state had come through and they cut off the ends of the branches of the tree because they had been laying across the marked trail. So I was looking for that. That was kind of the landmark we were keeping an eye out for. And yeah, we didn't we I don't know how it happened. I don't know how we got so off the trail of where we were going. I mean, I think at one point the trail branched off and maybe we took one branch when we should have taken the other. Do you remember at all?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about where we were and where we were heading, it just didn't. We had come the opposite ways the last time from the other parking area. So
Right.
this parking area brought us in a completely different way. But in my mind, it should have been shorter, but it sure seemed a lot longer once we were
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was either that or we were tired from walking down the logging road and coming back out of that ravine is enough to, you're talking that's the highest points in there. So
Right.
you're walking 2,200 feet up and down mountain ravines and it'll tire you out, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. And I definitely felt it for a couple days afterward. But I agree. Like when we went in, it I I knew it was going to take a while. It just seemed like it was taking way longer than I had anticipated. Just from looking at the trail maps and kind of seeing what the distance was and knowing, how far it should have been, it just seemed like it was taking way longer than it should have. But eventually, we got onto the trail that we needed to be on and saw that, um, and I found that we saw that down tree with the cut branches. I was like, okay, here's the spot. This is the spot. So we need to just uh, take a left and head down the ravine and look for the boulders.
And
Um,
then the hill had other ideas and hit it quite well from us again.
yes, once again, we headed down and yeah, we're going and we're okay. I think it's got to be over this way, and it wasn't over this way, and then we end up. I
Hmm.
don't know. It was just walking around. I knew we were going to find it eventually, just because once you do see it, um, you can see it from a ways away. And there was the one. What I was hoping to see was the one boulder out of all those boulders. There was that one that's just whitish color that probably has some quartz in it. Um, and I was hoping
And
to
it
see
was
that.
so big, that rock is so big compared to most of the rocks in that area.
Yeah.
You would think you could see that a mile away,
Yep.
but that hill hides stuff. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's hard to, it's just it's a combination of the overgrowth and then, the unevenness of the ravine. So there's like little hills and little you know, slopes and but eventually I think
We were off
yeah.
we were off trail. Like we're going way off trail.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
not sticking to a regular path through the woods or anything. You're traipsing through brush and down trees and all that. So it's kind of
Yep.
exhausting.
Yeah, that's That's for sure. It ended up ultimately, I think we were out in the woods for about 5 hours. I think a little bit longer than 5 hours. Um, so yeah, so finding this one, like finding the first three mounds, it was challenging, but it didn't take as long as it did to find these again, even though we had found these, um, even though we thought we kind of knew where they were, but eventually we found the original. I keep calling it the original. I don't know what else to call it, but we found the arrangements of stones, the stone pile, and the seven boulders lined up. Um, so I got some.
Yeah, I was glad to finally get you to the original pile that I had in the picture of,
Yeah. Yep.
let alone find what, three other items out there
Hey.
besides.
Yep. So so yeah, we found the seven boulder arrangement, whatever. I was taking some more pictures, and there's still a lot of overgrowth and a lot of brush at this time of year. So, but as I was taking a video of it, doing a video walk around and trying to get a better some better records of the spot. Um, and I was watching the video, and that's right near the end of the video. I can hear your voice in the distance. You're like, "Hey, I think I found some treasure over here," or something like that. Um, and then and I looked up, and I'm looking in the direction where you were, and there's like three more boulders in a line that
Crazy.
I had never seen the first time we were there.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And then to find those old artifacts that were just laying on the top of the ground, like it looked almost like a jar lid that you would do like pickles in or something.
Yup.
And then there was the old ball mason jar that was cracked out
Right.
and didn't have a bottom, and also a shovel, just a
Yup.
flat shovel, like for shoveling coal or something. But I mean, you wouldn't expect that those things to be out there, and some other rusty metal parts that were just laying there. But it definitely someone was there way long time ago.
Yeah. Yup. And so yeah, there was the seven boulders, and there was probably another, I think, three or four, prominent, not as big as the big white one, but prominent boulders lying in a straight line, more stone piles along with those boulders, and then the spot where you found the old artifacts. Now I did when we were looking at the ball jar, which was broken, I noticed that it had a seam on it, and I remembered that there was a certain time frame um, when old glass jars and bottles. My grandfather used to collect bottles. He used to like dig up old bottles, and I think he was the one who told me that you can tell if a bottle or a jar is super old if there's no seam in it, because that meant it was blown back when glass was blown, and then the ones with the seam in it means a mold was used. So the broken jar that you found was made in a mold because there was a seam around it. And I looked it up, and ball jars started being made in molds around 1895.
Oh my
So
gosh,
so whenever those
that's old.
yeah, so it had to be after 1895 whenever those whenever the at least the jar ended up being there. Um,
Right.
which kind of tracks with the history of Connecticut Hill, because they say that that was, late 1800s, early 1900s was when there was a lot of farming or attempts at farming going on up there, and a lot of logging, but the farming ended up being unsuccessful. So the people kind of beat it out of there, and never went back up. But all the old um, all the old foundations and that old schoolhouse, those are all from
There's
that.
there's actually my neighbor had told me there's an old coal mine up there as well,
There.
and he said it's still open. So it would have been really cool to have him come out there to show us that quartz ledge and the coal mine
Yeah.
and some of the other things he might know.
Yeah.
But
We might.
that might be a third trip sometime.
Right. Right. So yeah, so you found the ball jar, uh, the old shovel, which I but it kind of makes me wonder, like, how long will a shovel last, like in the elements out in the middle of nowhere before it completely rusts away? And this was like half rusted. So
Yeah. And
it
this was a shovel that, it was kind of like it looked to me to be like a coal shovel that was just used for like shoveling coal because it didn't have a spade end on it. It was just
yeah,
flat. And then you got to figure when I saw it, there was no wooden handle. So that's long deteriorated and gone.
right.
So it had some age to it, and it was quite thick. I don't know if you realize that. It was pretty thick.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was and then there was the lid that it looked like it was a ceramic lid that was,
Yep.
like you said, that was used to, for an old crock or something like that.
Yep.
Um
That's why
and
I had said when I saw the shovel and the ball jar and then that crock lid, I was like, I think I found a treasure, but there's no treasure left.
right, right. Um but it does make me wonder, to be completely honest, um the seeing the rock piles and seeing those boulders all in a line, I can I can see where someone would say that's just the remains of an old stone fence or an old stone pile. That there is a long, long time ago, somebody purchased the land and um, tried to push all the rocks into one area so they could farm the rest of the land, and maybe that's why there's old pieces of shovels and old jars there because it was inhabited at one time. So it did, when I saw that there was, signs of human habitation there, I kind of say, okay, well, maybe, maybe it's possible that it was just an old stone wall. But I still have the question of why move boulders of that size into
Yeah,
a
they're
line like
huge.
that?
They're
Yeah,
real huge. I mean, if normally when you see these stone walls that are out in the woods or something like that, they're still stacked because no one's going to go back there and say, well, I don't want this stone fence here. Let's get it out of here.
right,
Nobody moves them. They stay
right.
there forever, you know?
Yep.
So, but there was really, I mean, when you look at the way the rocks are and where they are, there was no semblance of a fence.
No,
So it's hard to say.
no. And again, if it was a fence, that had collapsed, then, you know, eh, then there would be, then they would be collapsed in a long line. There would be stones all along the whole path that are collapsed. But it wasn't like that. It was like a boulder and a stone pile around it, and then an area where there's no stones, or maybe one or two, 15, 20 feet, and then there's another stone pile and another boulder. So it doesn't look like, it really doesn't look like a fence to me. Uh,
Yeah,
and if,
it's
and if,
definitely an interesting spot for sure.
yeah, it's a
There's a
very,
story there. It's hidden with the time of the hill.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a story. It involves, now that we saw those, the signs that there were people there, people were involved, people were around this stone structure at one time for whatever reason. I think that was kind of wasn't that kind of near an old stream, not far from?
Yeah, well, the stream is down into the ravine that's over that way, yeah. But it's not like it's in the ravine there.
Oh,
You know what
okay.
I mean? It's kind of on top where we
Yeah,
found that stuff.
right.
It's actually like a flat area, which the way it is, it's kind of kooky because then it drops off and then goes down to where that creek is.
Okay. Yeah. I couldn't remember if there was a little small feeder, like a little feeder creek or something next to it,
Yeah.
but
You'll
um
have to pinpoint it and use that topo map you
yeah.
got from me to kind of pinpoint everything and lay it out on that map and kind of take another picture of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and maybe if you can send me the metadata. I took a bunch of pictures. I didn't get it. The location wasn't working for me at that area either. So, um,
So bizarre. That's the same thing with how Google Earth was clouding it out. Like you couldn't
right.
get a good read on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like you said, like we when we were looking for it, it was, it was just so hard to find it and just
Yep.
hard to get there. And then even on our way out, when we were like, okay, well, we're done for the day, we just got to walk back up the hill. We get to the path and we follow the path, and we'll be right back to the truck. And it did not work that way.
No, it wound up being almost an hour long journey just to get out of
Yeah.
there,
Yeah. Yeah.
which was not what I had expected at all,
No, no,
for sure.
it shouldn't have. I mean, if we had taken the normal, yeah, it shouldn't have taken more than 30 minutes probably to get out of there. Um, but
It almost seemed shorter to go back to the other place that we had parked with all the horseflies.
yeah, 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 it probably would have been. But yeah, man, that place, it's really easy to get turned around up there. I don't know if I don't know if it's some kind of, weird, prankster energy that is emanating from the mountain that kind of makes people get lost, or if it's just because it's woods and because it's, tough terrain that it's easy to get lost. Um, but I tell it, like, there were so many times where I think I know where we are. It's like, okay, yeah, I know what this is. And
So crazy,
so
right?
we just have to go up here.
You get
Yeah.
glimpses of memories of, have I been in this spot before?
Yeah. 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 And then you go up a little further. It's like, no, this isn't where I was, or was it? And that's just what it was all day. Like,
And the other thing was, I had no idea that they had logged that whole other section of that trail. I didn't know that had happened
oh, right. Yep.
where we had come into that clearing, and I was like, well, that's a view that we haven't seen.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, there is logging that still goes on up there all the time, um, in different areas. But, but yeah, it was another, another successful, I guess you would call it, adventure up on Connecticut Hill, um, finding way more than we thought we were going to find. Lots of surprises around every corner, and yeah, anything to add to that?
Yeah, it just kind of makes you stop and think, like, what else could be up there?
Yeah. Yep. Oh, and what were you telling me about how there's that area where the hunters just seem to never go to hunt?
Yeah, like the parking area, the road bisects and then it goes around in a giant square and then there's another road that goes back out. So for some reason, all the time when people park there, they always head north. I've never seen hunters come out of the south side of that road ever. They
Yeah.
always go to the north side for whatever reason it is. I mean, I've even caught myself just not wanting to go south of that road that we got on there and parked. But it's everyone. Even my neighbor who's been here all his life, he doesn't go that way either.
Yeah.
So very, very peculiar. Just something that's added to the mystery of that place. But
Yep.
maybe this deer hunting season I'll wind up walking south and see what else. Maybe I'd find something else.
Yeah. Maybe you'll find the reason nobody wants to go there.
I hope it's not bad reason, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's just really weird that nobody, that no, I don't want to say nobody, but nobody seems to want to go there.
Just
And
don't, yeah, they just don't hunt that side. And what's funny is if you think about it, there's another road parallel to that one. And if you keep walking, you'll eventually come to that road if you ever got lost.
yeah.
So it's actually safer to hunt that south side than the north because you saw what you're up against to the north. You got the mountain just goes straight up over there. So
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, it's a heck of a walk. And if you get tired or you have you know, some kind of health condition and you get in trouble, you're going to be in trouble, big trouble trying to get out of there.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. I guess that covers it unless you have anything else that you want
Nah,
to
I
add.
don't, nah, I don't, no, I think that's about it. I think it was great that we found more than I expected. I wanted to only show you one mound, I thought, and wound up being, a lot more than that, to my surprise.
Yeah. Yeah. To my surprise as well. That place is just full of surprises. Um, yeah. And, hunting season's coming up, so I'm not going to be out there wandering in the woods anytime soon, but, um, while you're out there, I'm sure you'll be
Yeah,
at
I'll
least
be
keeping
keeping my eyes open.
keeping your eyes open for anything strange that you wander across. And, maybe someday in the future, who knows, we'll go and we'll find that legendary quartz ledge and
Yeah,
be able to tell that story too. But,
sounds great.
all right, cool, Rick. Well, thanks for doing this, and, yeah, thanks for doing this.
You got it. I hope
All right, man.
everybody enjoys it.
Yeah, me too. Well, that's it for this time around. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for listening. And if you have any thoughts on any of the topics in this episode, please let me know. And remember to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and get over to SenecaLakeMysteries.com and subscribe to the email list so you don't miss anything. A new podcast comes out every month on the 7s. I'll talk to you then.